Hey guys, it's Brittany and welcome to my channel. So recently I made a video called Day in My Life as an Emergency Department Scribe, and I got so many questions concerning the job's compensation, its responsibilities, expectations, and also requirements. I put together a small list of questions that you guys have asked so that you can get a little insight of what it's like to be an Emergency Department Scribe. Would you need to type 60 plus words per minute? So we never had to take a test to see how fast we can type. I started out as a pretty slow typer, but as I worked more hours, I began typing faster and faster. Now I would say I'm a pretty fast typer. Being a slow typer isn't a good reason to not try this job. You will eventually get faster. It's just something you have to work on. So no, you don't necessarily need to type 60 plus words per minute. Do you apply through a company or a specific hospital? I applied through one company, but I work at 4 different places scattered around my city. If you apply to something like Scribe America, you could be placed in a hospital like anywhere in the US. I'm not really sure how that works, but I applied through a regional one, so it's not through like a Scribe company. Do you get to choose what department you work in? So you can choose what department, but whatever department you choose, you apply directly into it. I tried to apply for cardiology and endocrinology, but they were not hiring. Is there a commitment, and how many hours do you work per week? For the company that I work for, there is a 1-year commitment. It's like a contract that we sign. You have to work for at least 1 year. As for the hours per week, you choose the days that you can work. So some weeks you might work a lot and some weeks you might not work at all. It all depends on your availability. How long did the onboarding process take? So for me, I started applying around, I think May. I think I applied around May and I didn't get it until like the end of July because there was an issue after you apply, which there's like $100 fee for application, and you get accepted. You have to do a physical exam. So they go and they test your blood sugar, blood pressure, drug screening test, stuff like that. And then you do this test called a fit test. They put an N95 on your face and spray bitter stuff in your face and you're not supposed to smell it. So I passed that test, but the nurse forgot to write down that I passed, so I had to redo the physical exam. That's why my process took forever, but it usually takes 1 month. And like I just mentioned, there is the application fee and you have to buy your own scrubs. At my hospital, there are certain color scrubs that we're allowed to wear. I know with Scribe America, I think they tell you to wear like a polo with khakis or something, but at my hospital, we just wear scrubs. The training process, what is it like? Before I started floor training, we did computer training to learn the program that we're gonna use. We learned how to use the charting program online. We also took HIPAA courses to protect patient privacy, and we took basic like other online courses. It was really easy. It was like a little bit of reading and then a quiz or something like that. No big deal. We were given several scribes at different hospitals to go basically kind of like shadow. You're following the other scribes around and seeing how they work, and a lot of scribe trainers will tell you to work on a note and they'll check over your work. So you're basically working as a scribe, but you have the guidance of a scribe who's had more experience than you have. And you just do that for about 10 shifts, and after that you're on your own. What if you had no exposure to medical terms? I didn't take any classes for medical terminology. This is my first real medical experience, so I didn't know anything. What I did was I went on Anki and found Scribe America's Anki deck, and they have a lot of medical abbreviations. Things like CAD, coronary artery disease, diabetes is DM, hypertension, HTN, like those abbreviations. I learned those before I got there. You don't necessarily have to, but it makes it a lot easier to write down, so you don't have to write down hypertension. You can just put HTN. It's a lot faster. So it's possible to do it without any exposure at all. But if I were you, I would try to learn some medical terminology before starting your job. Another question I got was, how long are these shifts? So a typical shift is 12 hours, a 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. or a 5 p.m. to 5 a.m., 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., you know. But I've been having a lot of shifts that are 6 to 4, 6 to 3, 10 to 8. It's really in between 9 to 12 hours. You basically work the same hours that physicians work. Do you get breaks or can you request breaks? And we're talking about time off. So yes, you can request breaks, but it's more like when we go to schedule our days, we give our manager 10 days that we're available, and she gives us back 10 days or less. And depending on the times you give them, they may give you 3 shifts per month or they may give you 10 shifts per month. In March, I only had 3 shifts. This month, I have 7. So it really depends on the times you give her. If I want to work day shift, I'll give them 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. and they'll give me some time between 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. to work. If you need a 2-week break, you can just try to schedule all of your 10 shifts around those dates, but I'm pretty sure if you ask, then you should be able to get time off. It just depends on who the manager is and what company you're working for. Do you get any breaks during this shift? Not really, because when you're in the emergency department, an emergency could happen at any time. So there's no scheduled breaks, no scheduled lunchtime. You eat whenever you can and you take breaks whenever you can. Like if you need to go to the bathroom, if you just came back from seeing a patient, you just tell the doctor, hey, I'm gonna go back to the bathroom real quick or whatever. But there are no scheduled or paid breaks. This is the question that everybody wants to know. How much do we make an hour? So in the training phase, we got $7.50 for training. And this was just because it was more observational than anything. And you are with another scribe the whole entire time. But after training is over, you are alone and we make $12 an hour. The job is not meant to get a steady income. It's for clinical hours. You're even told in the beginning, do not use this job as a form of income because it's not reliable. It's really unstable and it depends on your availability along with the doctor's hours. But 12 is not bad because I worked as a caregiver and it was only 10 and that was more hands-on. Do you find it difficult to manage school and scribing at the same time? I personally do not, because there's a lot of downtime in the hospital. After you see patients, you have to wait a while for CT scans to come back, blood work to come back, things like that. So you can sit down and finish up your notes and then start studying. I do a lot of my schoolwork and studying during my shifts. That way going to work doesn't really hinder my schoolwork at all. What do you use to take notes? When I go into a room, I used to have a clipboard with a template I made so I could just circle. A lot of doctors ask, like, do you have any nausea, vomit, diarrhea, whatever? You put NVD. And then if they ask you, do you smoke or drink alcohol? I have ETOH and tobacco like there, so I can just circle it and mark it out. But every time I did that, I could only have 4 patients per paper. And it was so big to carry around, so I moved on to a small notebook. In my other video, I showed my notebook, but I no longer use it because it ran out of pages and I couldn't find a notebook that was that perfect size anymore. The first scribe that trained me, I started doing what he did. I take 2 pieces of copy paper and I fold it in half like this and I fold it half again, and I could fit 3 patients like this, and then flip it over, 3 patients like that, and then flip it over, 3 patients like that. So on a full piece of paper, I can fit 12 on one side and 12 on the other side, and it's honestly more efficient because I could put it in my pocket. I don't have to find my notebook every time I go to work. I literally just grab copy paper from the printer. I used to write a lot of notes on patients. Now each patient only uses this much paper space. So another thing is overcoming your fear of asking questions. A lot of times people get a little scared to ask the doctors questions, but doctors need you. They pay for scribes, which means they need you. So if you are unsure of something that the doctor said, please just ask them, because I'm sure they want you to correctly document everything. It's better to ask the doctor than write it wrong on their chart. A lot of people think the job is scary and fast-paced. It is, and it also isn't. I thought the emergency department was gonna be like super crazy. I thought people were gonna come in with gunshot wounds, broken arms, and crazy bloody and everything, but most of the time, a lot of people were coming in for minor things like headaches or leg pain or back pain. Of course, that was different around COVID, but now things have settled down a little bit. So now you have a mixture of critical patients and minor patients. Do you get yelled at by doctors and nurses? So I personally have not gone yelled at by them, but I have heard stories where they do get yelled at. But think about it like this. It's like any other job. You're gonna have managers that will yell at you if something happens, but for the most part, if you do your job, you'll be good. Doctors and nurses, despite their training and their degrees or whatever, they're still people. So most of the time, the shifts go pretty well. Do I have any tips for interviews? So fortunately for me, I didn't have to go through an interview process. It was an immediate hire because it was through a reference. So right now, my company is hiring. If I know somebody who wants to be a scribe, I will just give them my manager's information and they can contact my manager directly. But I have had some medical related interviews, and I would just say be prepared by looking up questions online, medical scribe interview questions, and see what kind of questions they ask. Be prepared for those kind of questions. Dress your best, because if you dress well, you leave a good impression and you also feel better. And also remember, the interviewers are just people. So they will understand if you stumble over words or if you don't know how to answer a question. Just ask them to clarify. They're just people. How was it like working during the pandemic? There was a point in time where I was wearing an N95 with another mask and a face shield, and I was like super protected. There was a high risk of getting COVID, but we stayed away from the patients and we were super protected. We were also vaccinated because that became a requirement. It's crazy that I entered the hospital during the pandemic. Now that the pandemic is trending down, it's not as bad anymore. It was definitely a great experience to work at the hospital in the time where people really need help. And finally, was being a scribe worth it? If you're planning to enter medical school, I definitely would be a scribe because you get so much exposure to not only medical terms, but you also get to see things in action. Reading something is not the same thing as seeing it in person. It's a really unique experience and you get to see a huge variety of cases. And also, scribing looks amazing on medical school applications. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. If you guys have any other questions, please leave it down in the comments below. If you found my video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to support your girl. If you found my video at all helpful, please give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to support your girl. And also, I heard a lot of you guys are applying to be scribes, so good luck with your interviews, good luck for your training, and good luck with your future endeavors. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!